Thanks for everybody for coming. This is going to be very, very short. I'm going to be on just for a couple minutes, and I'll introduce Richard. And the purpose of today really was for Richard and his team to introduce us to Hudson Bay. And Mary Gay flew in from London. Actually, I think she's going from Milan to Paris to here. So, and she, for all of us to see and be introduced to Mary Gay. So I'm really playing just an introductory role, but I guess before, since we haven't, it's an opportunity with all of us here together, and we haven't been together for quite a while. Ron and I have had an opportunity through the Straight Talk to talk to everybody, but I just wanted to take a moment to thank the team. It's been a remarkable run for me, Ron, the leadership team for the last 8 years or so, and I think that we've accomplished a lot. We've had ups, downs, weathered a recession, come out stronger, and obviously the price that we're getting for the company is very fair for the shareholders. And I think that it's a tribute to all of you because you did a remarkable job, I think well respected in the industry. And I just, on behalf of Ron's here as well, and on behalf of both of us, just want to thank all of you. So with that, let me introduce Richard.
Thank you, Steve. Actually, you stole a little bit of my thunder there. I really wanted to start off by thanking Steve and Ron and the executive team at Saks for not only being very gracious in this whole process and as we've worked through this very awkward transition period, but really to congratulate them and all of you, as Steve just said, on actually a spectacular job. I'm still waking up in the middle of the night with a cold sweat as to how they convinced us to pay almost $3 billion to buy Saks. So obviously, this is a very, very smart, very talented team. And before we go forward, I just want to give I want everyone to give them a round of applause again and congratulate them. So with that, before I start, I thought maybe that this group of people might not have a whole lot of experience with Hudson's Bay and Lord & Taylor, probably less so with Hudson's Bay. So what I wanted to do was to show you a little video that we have, and then after that, I'm going to chat with you all. get nervous when I look at the newspaper articles that say Hudson Bay rolls the dice to buy Saks. Well, we certainly never bought anything as high quality and well managed and as well organized as Saks before. I thought I'd start by telling you a little bit about, how we came to the decision to buy Saks. It wasn't just sort of in the last 3 months. It's something we've been thinking about and working on for a long time. In fact, we bought Lord & Taylor and our first investment in Hudson Bay Company in 2006. And it was actually the year before, and I pulled out the old files and memos and looked at it. It was actually in 2005 when we first came up with the strategy that wouldn't it be fantastic if you could buy Lord & Taylor, if you could buy Saks, and if you could buy Hudson Bay? Of course, at the time, we knew we wanted to sell Zellers, which was a discount group that we had in Canada. So it was really in 2005 that we started thinking about this idea of putting together these three businesses under one company. But the truth is, it was really before 2005. And growing up, I have a grandmother, actually she passed away, but I had a grandmother whose name was Sylvia. And she used to tell us stories when we were growing up about the years that she worked for a famous entertainer by the name of Eddie Cantor. Now, there's probably only a small number of people in the room who know who Eddie Cantor is, but he was sort of the Bob Hope, maybe that's a bad name too, but he was sort of the Bob Hope of the 20s, 30s, and 40s. Anyway, she used to tell the story of how she was at the opening of Saks Fifth Avenue, the original building, in 1924 with Eddie Cantor, and she would tell my brother and I stories about how Saks was the most elegant and the most sophisticated store in the world, and she was there when they opened the doors. And she told the story a lot because I guess it had a lot of impact on her. So when I was thinking about coming here and speaking today, I knew that my grandmother would be smiling as she was looking down, and even though I like to think that we began planning this in 2005, maybe there were other people who were thinking about it and planning it way before that. But let me tell you why Hudson Bay Company and Saks together are so compelling. What really drove us to, pull the lottery machine down and really go for it. Three big things to start with. First is we have this huge infrastructure and platform in Canada where we believe we can have really compelling growth for Saks in Canada. We think we have the opportunity to open 7 full-line stores in Canada, up to 25 office stores, and a very compelling online business. And no one else in the world can do that because we have the infrastructure, we have the real estate, all done, all ready to go, nothing in our way. Also, the competitive set in Canada, unlike almost any other country in the world, really creates an opportunity for Saks. So that was sort of our first very compelling reason. Second compelling reason is we really believe that we have $100 million worth of back-of-house synergies that putting these companies together can achieve. And that's a huge, huge value. Thirdly, we own a tremendous amount of real estate. So in Canada, at Lord & Taylor, at Saks, we own and ground lease something like 17 million square feet of real estate. Well, what we plan on doing is creating a REIT. So what we're going to do is put all the real estate into a REIT, and the Hudson Bay Company, HBC, is going to own the majority of the shares of the REIT. We're not selling off the real estate or anything like that. All we're doing is showing to our investors that instead of owning real estate, hard assets, which most people have a hard time understanding the value of, what we're going to do is we're going to put the hard assets in a REIT and we're going to own REIT shares, which is going to do 2 very compelling things for us. One, it's going to give investors an opportunity to really understand the value of our company on any given day. That's fantastic. Secondly, it's going to give us another vehicle in order to invest in our stores. We're really passionate and really believe that the key to our future success is reinvesting in the stores. And we have tremendous plans to reinvest in our buildings. The problem, as we all know, when you want to invest in buildings, is how do you get the right return in order to drive the economics forward. Having a REIT that's happy to have an 8% return because it's a REIT versus being an operating company that wants to have a 20% return basically makes a much more compelling structure for us to be able to invest in our buildings going forward. So those were the three reasons why we really felt strong and passionate about moving forward with the acquisition of Saks. Now, as far as our plan going forward, our philosophy is pretty simple. So first part of our philosophy is we think it is hugely important to fill every seat in the organization with a world-class athlete. We think all of you deserve to work with the best people in the industry. And part of our team's mantra and part of our team's primary responsibility is to fill every chair with a world-class athlete. So whether that's at a cosmetic counter, whether that's an assistant store manager, a store manager, someone in the marketing department, we want an organization with the best people in the world. And I have gotten on a plane and flown to Asia. I've gotten on a plane to fly to Europe. Anywhere I have to go, anywhere people on our team have to go to find the best people in the world to fill any particular seat, that's really top priority and very important for us. Secondly, we believe in a compensation system that rewards people for their individual contribution and for how the company does. So we want a whole army of people all driven to do the best they can do, to be focused on what their responsibilities are, but together driving the EBITDA on the bottom line of the entire organization. And we find that's very compelling and creates a really winning atmosphere. Thirdly, similar to the culture at Saks, Hudson Bay Company has a culture of risk-taking. So we like to take risks. We like to push the envelope. Now, we like to hedge our risks. We like to understand when we fail. But we want to encourage people to be pushing so hard and trying so hard that sometimes they fail. And an organization like this has to be able to accept failure. Because if you can't, if everyone's frightened to death to do something wrong because they're going to get fired, well, that's a bad formula. Our formula is that we want to give you the tools to push forward. We want to allow you to dream. We want to allow everybody to try something that they're not sure is going to work, but to understand the downside and what happens if it doesn't work. And at the end of the year, when we look at the 10 objectives that any individual might have accomplished for the year, it's not unusual for us to see 2 or 3 things that didn't work, maybe an event or a brand or whatever the situation is, and maybe 2 or 3 things that worked just the way they were supposed to, but hopefully there's going to be 2 or 3 home runs in what their goals were that year because they felt the ability and the freedom to really push and go for it. And that's the kind of atmosphere and that's the kind of attitude that we really want to encourage. So lastly, we have a philosophy at HBC, which is owner-operator. Every single person at HBC at the present time and going forward after the acquisition of Saks is going to own in one form or another a piece of the company. So everyone is an owner-operator. So whether you're the fellow who opens the door at the front door at Lord & Taylor or at Saks on Fifth Avenue, or whether you're the CEO, you're going to own a piece of the company. And that creates, even if it's small for someone who's a part-time sales associate, they own a piece of the company. The mental, what that does in your outlook every day is really dramatic, knowing that your particular work, what you're going to do every day, is going to affect the value of the company that you own a piece of. And we feel very strongly about that, and we feel that everyone should have an owner-operator type of mentality. So that's our plan going forward. I want to talk a little bit about what I see as our largest opportunities, because I think we have a whole lot of really incredible opportunities going forward. First, I'm going to talk about the Fifth Avenue flagship. And John, you should be a little nervous over there. I believe we're prepared to spend $200 million more if necessary. Sorry, Michael Culhane, who's quivering in the background at the thought of that. But we're prepared to spend what we need to spend in order to renovate that Fifth Avenue store so that it is a world-class house of luxury that no other facility in the world compares to it. And we believe if we do that, that we have an opportunity for huge growth in that building. And just to give you a comparison, sort of rough figures if I can, so I kind of hear maybe that other large department stores in the world, perhaps, if you compare the 650,000 feet that we have in New York to similar square footage in other places, that there are other department stores in the world that do triple the volume per square foot in those categories. And there are different cities, and there's license, and there's all kinds of different reasons why. But triple the volume. So we all know that that store does approximately $700 million. So there are other department stores in the world at a similar space that do $2.1 billion out of the same type of space. So why can't we dream? So I don't know what the right number is. Is it $500 million more we should be able to do out of that building? Is it $700 million more out of that building? I don't know, and I don't know how exactly we're going to figure it out. Can we build up in the building? Can we go down in the building? Can we consolidate certain back of house uses in other buildings? But we are going to figure out together how to dramatically increase the volume in that particular store. So that's opportunity number one. Second opportunity, of course, your off-Fifth group. So let's just talk about that. As Steve and Ron have talked about for a long time, and Rob have talked about, of course, there's a great opportunity to grow off-Fifth. And we agree with that, not only in Canada, but in the United States. But with my discussions with Rob, we think that there's really a great opportunity to do something additional. Now that the Lord & Taylor brand and the Saks brand are I don't want to call them brothers, cousins, there's an opportunity for the outlet group to roll out a Lord & Taylor outlet. And now, instead of being at this level where the off-Fifth is, there is an opportunity to grow. There's an opportunity to roll out a Lord & Taylor outlet, and it might not be called outlet. It might be called a Lord & Taylor rack or Lord & Taylor on sale or whatever it is, but at a price point above TJ Maxx and below Nordstrom Rack, which is really a sweet part of the market that off-Fifth, for obvious reasons, can't participate, but Lord & Taylor outlet could. And it could be a huge opportunity. It could be 500 stores someday. So that is another big opportunity. Of course, I talked about Canada and the opportunity with 7 full-line new stores in really tremendous markets. I really think about the 7 full-line stores as kind of like 5 Boston-type markets, and then 2 markets not quite as good as Boston. And again, the off-Fifth and the internet as well. Additionally, we have the opportunity with the spectacular internet business that you all have here, and the opportunity for that going forward, as we all know, is really very bright. Omni-channel continues to be great opportunity and a great focus. And lastly, we think that the seeds that you've planted for global growth with the deals that you've made around the world, we think there's really a very strong opportunity to continue to evolve that strategy and to go to other countries and to maybe partner instead of franchise and do different things in order to take the Saks brand global and really build a fulsome global Saks strategy. So look, our goal here is to really be the #1 luxury retailer in the world. And by the way, that means not only outside the United States, that means inside the United States, and that means right here in New York City. We want to have fun, we want to make money, we want to win. As interesting as the last 5 years have been for all of you who've been here, I promise you the next 5 years are going to be off the charts. So I'd like to now introduce Don Watros, the Chief Operating Officer of HBC, and my partner in the Office of the Chairman. He's going to talk to you a little bit about some of our plans, and then I'll come back up.
Thanks, Richard. Wow. What a long, strange trip it's been. I just want to talk a little bit about the integration process. I know the #1 concern within the organization right now is communication, understanding what's the future, where we're headed. I've been through, when I spent 11 years at Saks, I went through two ownership changes and 3 management changes. So I appreciate where everybody, the position everybody's in right now. I also went through 2 mergers when I was at May Department Stores. So I have a PhD in getting acquired. But again, the most important thing is for us to communicate and for you to understand. I can't stand here today and say I have all the answers for all your questions, but I do know that we do have a plan that I'm going to share a little bit with you. And as things progress and as the items identify themselves, we will communicate to you quickly. We have guiding principles for the integration effort. And what these are for is to make sure that we are consistent in our decision-making process as we go through this adventure. Things are going to get crazy. It's going to start moving very quickly, but we need our guiding principles to make sure, again, that we're consistent in how we approach the business. The most important thing is to paint the strategic vision. And we need to generate excitement for our organization. I think Richard did a very good job to share with you kind of our preliminary thoughts and where we saw the value in the acquisition. The second item, we really need to limit the disruption to the business. When we close in November, hopefully, all goes well, we're going to be right in the 4th quarter. And it's going to be critical for all of us to continue to do our jobs, to really focus on the business and to deliver the year. Both companies have very rich cultures, and we are very sensitive to maintaining the positives in both cultures. When we merged with Hudson Bay, Lord & Taylor was a culture from May Department Stores. So everybody in the room has a feeling what May Department Stores was like. It was very rigid, not much room for thought. And we merged that company with the Hudson Bay Company, which was the oldest company in North America. There's great value in the legacy of that, but there's a huge liability attached with it also because change was extremely difficult in Canada. And as we put the 2 companies together, we were very sensitive, again, on the cultural aspect. And this was foreign countries putting them together, so it was extremely challenging. So I just want to reiterate that we're going to be very sensitive on how we approach the cultures, and just like all the other synergies, we're going to go through a best practice and try to create our new culture for the new combined entity, which will be much more powerful than the 2 separate. We need to actively listen to the organization. We all appreciate it. We get that. There's always a fear in these mergers and acquisitions that we're going to come in and it's our way or the highway. 100%, again, we've been through a number of these recently. We have to be extremely sensitive. We have to listen to the organization. And you all are going to want to make sure that you have a voice at the table and someone is hearing that voice. And we are very focused on that. And again, the last one, to be redundant and to reiterate it, we have to communicate openly and regularly. Again, as information surfaces on our end, we're going to try to share it with you as quickly as possible. It's not going to be perfect because things are moving fast. We're all busy, but again, I just want to make sure that everybody in the room understands that we appreciate it, and it is going to be a focus of ours. The key integration milestones. Last week, we established the Integration Planning Group, which we're putting Saks people together with the Hudson Bay to start the process of integrating the two companies. And again, I just want to say this one more time, that we view this as we want the top talent. This is not HBC acquiring, taking over Saks. This is going to be an integration, and we want the best people after we get through this process. We will be launching a culture survey, and we want to understand, we're going to interview all the Saks people. We want to know, what do you think is great about your company? What do you think is challenging about your company? Where the opportunities lie? We're also going to do it on the Hudson Bay side. And we're going to share that information with everybody, and hopefully this will provide us a roadmap of going back to, as I mentioned, putting the two cultures together. By October 30th, and again, this is all based on the November 4th closing date, which we're targeting, we will be prepared to announce the leadership team for the go forward. I know that's a few weeks out, but we again are working very, very as hard as we can right now to paint the picture as clearly as possible, so we'll be able to hit that date and communicate it. So I just want to say it's great to be back, and thank you. And Richard, I'm going to introduce our distinguished guest.
Okay, so to back up my earlier comment that I'm willing to go anywhere in the world and willing to break any rule and have people chase me out of stores or whatever it is in order to get the very best talent, it is my great honor now to introduce you to, subject to the closing, the next president of Saks Fifth Avenue, Mary Gay McKee.
Hello, everybody. Apologies in advance for the accent. For those of you that don't know me, I'm from London, known under various guises as everything from a lipstick girl to lipsticks and frocks. I started my career a long time ago working with the Estee Lauder Corporation as a lipstick girl, and progressed through fashion, accessories, and the wonderful world of retail, and have spent the last 15 years of my life, nearly a third of my life, at a store in London called Harrods, which I still believe, although Richard will tell me off for saying this, is one of, if not the greatest store on earth. And apparently I'm not allowed to say that anymore. But it's fully my intention to continue the very excellent work that's been done over the past few years. I know I have very, very big shoes to fill with Ron and Steve and the team. I have had the pleasure of meeting the senior management team many times over the last 10 years at various fashion shows. And I'm very, very privileged to often get to sit next to Ron. I'm not quite sure why Ron and I were always seated next to each other, but we've shared many conversations over the years. And I have to say, I'm extremely humbled to follow in the footsteps of somebody like Ron Fresh, who I know is so well respected in the business by all at Saks, by every vendor, every international company around the world. And I will do my best to keep meeting and hopefully exceeding the expectations of all of our luxury brand partners and of all of the staff and people here at Saks. I've heard all the jokes about the Saks appeal, and I've heard all the jokes about the there is no room in New York for another British girl. But I hope that they will allow one to come. It wasn't the easiest of decisions, because I have two teenage children who take up a lot of my time, a 15-and-a-half-year-old daughter and a 17-and-a-half-year-old son, who both have, unfortunately, a girlfriend and a boyfriend at the moment, who they're very reticent to leave behind. I also have two Shih Tzus who require daily dog walking, and a disabled Chihuahua, which unfortunately is probably also going to make its way across the pond if I don't get to give it away before I move over. But what I was going to say as well is I have been made to feel extremely welcome by a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the room that have been kind enough to send me an email or give me a call or send me a note, and I very much appreciate that. I'm not going to profess that I know a ton about American geography or about the American consumer, although I'm a very fast learner. What I do bring to the table, even though Richard's been laughing at me because I didn't know what Tulsa, Oklahoma was, is that, for many, many years, I've worked in the luxury world and worked with brands, and in the same vein as Ron and Steve, tried to really build personal relationships and luxury partnerships with all of the key brands around the world. Very, very important in today's market because luxury is growing at a much faster pace than any other form of brand. And also, luxury is evolving, as we said before, not just in bricks and mortar, but online. I know Saks has an extremely successful and very large online business. But for me, the very, very important thing that we need to bring to the table is to continue to evolve. I'd rather see an evolution than a revolution, but I'd like to see an evolution that involves all of the people at Saks. There's immense talent. I was very humbled and very pleased today to meet so many great people that between them had tenure of over 150 years just with like 8 people. I mean, it's incredible. And so I really do think that with the right tools in place, the right attitude, the right approach, the real sort of desire to do something transformational and something, to create, really maximize the potential that is Saks and make it the bastion of American luxury that I really believe it is and can continue to be in a bigger and maybe even slightly different way. We have our competitors very close on our heels. I do hear that there's already been emergency meetings in Dallas where people have been trying to tie up brands on exclusivity deals in order to not give us as big of a chance. But I would say that if we do our business with dignity and with integrity, and if we continue to build the brand relationships as we have been up until now, and take those brand relationships, those brand collaborations, those brand opportunities to the next level, I really think we can do something fantastic. And, it really doesn't cost anything to be nice. And I think that good karma, being nice, treating people properly, one of the key things that I'd like to try and do is really get to understand the culture of the company. And I know from my correspondence with Steve and Ron that there is immense talent within the company and that there is a lot of people that will continue to thrive and grow and develop within this organization. For those people, I would say, I hope not to ever let you down, and I hope to do a good job and exceed expectations. My father always told me that there was only 3 types of people in the world. Those that don't meet expectations, those that meet expectations, and those that exceed. And I've always tried to be the latter, and I've always tried to get my teams to be the latter and exceed expectations. It kind of means that you get less into trouble and that less people tell you off if you do that, or that has been my experience in life at best. But I do want to say that I'm terribly excited. An important thing to say is I'm still working for Harrods. I know that may be a shocker as I'm here for 12 hours, but we're not as radical, perhaps, although the Boston Tea Party might look different. We're not as radical in England as some might say. So I think if I had been going to Harvey Nichols or to Selfridges, I would have probably been walked out immediately. I think as I was coming 6,000 miles away, they kind of allowed me to stay and asked me to stay till Christmas. Sorry, the holidays. But basically, basically what I would say is I wish you all the very, very best. I will be here in the new year. I will be in touch with everybody in the meantime. I will be coming out every other weekend to try and sort things out and to try and sort out somewhere to live for myself, my dogs, my children, not in that order, but my children, my dogs, etc. And I will try and make sure that we can really create something that is stunning, as in having the ability to render living creatures momentarily breathless. Thank you very much.
Okay, so here we are, 40 days away from closing, something like that. You've met myself and Don. You've met the new president of Saks going forward. Jennifer, where are you? There's Jennifer, we've announced is the new chief merchant of the organization. So you're starting to see the blueprints here We promise we are going to keep communicating with you as it's appropriate and as things evolve. And between now and the first week in November, you'll learn a whole lot more about the future of Saks and the future team at Saks. Thank you all for coming today. We greatly appreciate it. We're honored by all of your presence. Thank you.